Good evening, everybody. Welcome to b.hive Productions Horror Humpdays. We are on episode 14, and tonight we're going to be reading the story Anti-Claus is Coming to Town. It's from my book Midnight Snacks, and I have read this story before. I read it last year for our Christmas special, and since then, I have written... Bobby's here. Since then, I have written an origin story. Hey, Shannon, welcome. I've written an origin story for the Anti-Claus. Basically, how this story came about, I was actually reading the lyrics to Santa Claus is Coming to Town, which is kind of ironic because Bobby and I were playing through that last night. But if you look at the lyrics, they're kind of frightening. Well, I mean, you all know it, but I just want you to think about these words. You better watch out, and you better not cry. You better not pout, I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town. He's making a list, and he's checking it twice, and he's going to find out who's naughty or nice. Santa Claus is coming to town. Here's the creepiest verse on the bridge. He sees you when you're sleeping, and he knows when you're awake. He knows if you've been bad or good, so you better be good, for goodness sakes. So... Well, that could. Hey, Jessica. Hey, Kevin. Welcome, you guys. So I mean, if you listen to that, it's Santa Claus is either a mob boss or just a kind of a stalker creep. So anyhow, reading those lyrics, I came up with since there is an Antichrist, there should be an Anti-Claus. And that's how this story started. So, yeah. So we'll dive into this story. I do have a little bit of an agenda with this story. As you all know, my friend Bobby Paulson is Mr. Positive, and he is a huge, huge fan of Christmas, and evidently Kevin and Dwayne are as well, because they voted for us to do a Christmas special for Tunes for Tuesday. And yeah, we'll deal with that later. Anyhow, so we've got so this story basically is my attempt to taint the Christmas holiday. Everybody's doing Santa Claus is coming to town now. So yeah. Despite any other song, that is probably one of the creepiest songs for me, because I don't like the fact of some being knowing when I'm asleep and when I'm awake and when I'm naughty and when I'm nice, and what's going to happen when he comes to town. That's my question. So anyhow, without further ado, this is kind of a long story, so I think I'm just going to jump right the heck into it, so that we can we can discuss a little bit afterwards. Merry Christmas. Okay, Bobby, here we go. And I'm gonna try to put my best little Christmas narration voice on as best I can. Anti-Claus is coming to town. On Christmas Eve, like any other, the Gilbertsons gathered at grandmother's house. Bill Sr. and his brother-in-law, Dan, would sit around the dinner table bitching about the Minnesota Vikings' defense over beers. Grandfather Henry sat in his old yellow lazy-boy recliner, rocking away, staring at his family, sipping a whiskey 7, and puffing on a Winston. Grandma Sharon fussed about in the kitchen, fixing her famous turkey and supervising both her daughters, Bea and Carrie. Nina was Bill Sr.'s wife. She sat in the living room with the kids. The kids consisted of Billy Jr., Trent, and Tabitha. Trent and his sister were Dan and Bea's kids. They were huddled in the living room with Nina, coloring pages from the giant-sized Christmas coloring book, which had been in the family since Bea and Carrie were kids. "Stay in the lines," Tabitha nudges Billy. "I'll color my own page how I want," Billy rebelled. Trent, who was the class bully, punched Billy in the arm. "Do what she says, retard!" Billy rubbed his arm and held back those fragile tears of his. He glanced up at his mom at the other side of the living room by the fireplace. She was reading the newspaper and didn't notice. Grandpa just rocked in his chair. It wasn't long until Grandma called everyone into the kitchen for dinner. The turkey roasted to a golden brown, with part of it sliced thinly on the side of the platter. Sweet potatoes and orange squash were in their respective dishes next to serving bowls of creamy mashed potatoes and homemade buns that glistened with a butter glaze. The adults had the center table, while the kids sat at the fold-out card table. Trent and Billy inhaled their food, because they knew once dinner was finished, they'd be ripping apart one present each. They would open the rest on Christmas morning. "Grandma," Trent shouted, "can we open our presents now?" Every year was the same question, and every year it was the same answer. "Trent," Grandma began, "the two of you will wait until everyone is done eating. My God, you two are so impatient." "But I didn't," Billy protested. "Shut up, dummy," Trent whispered with a slug. And so they waited until all the adults were done with their plates and their beers, and sat down in the living room, grunting and belching and farting. Trent went around and passed out one present each to everyone in the room. Billy had really wanted to pick out his own present, but didn't want to start anything with Trent. He was hoping for the 101-piece artist set he had seen at the hobby store. It was the only thing he really wanted, more than anything. "Why do you want to be some faggot artist, Billy boy?" his father had asked him when Billy's expressed interest in art. "You should try to be a doctor or something. Even a butcher like me would make me happy. Pick something a little more manly than an artist." Billy had lost hope in getting the artist set. His only chance would be his mother. She encouraged him in his artistic endeavors. The box Trent handed him was about the size of a hat box, wrapped in shiny blue foil paper. He shook it and looked at the tag. "To Billy, from Dad." He ran his Christmas list through his head and could not recall anything that would fit into a box like this. The artist set was larger and rectangular and was in a wooden case. This was smaller, thicker, and was in cardboard. "Go ahead, Billy boy," his father encouraged. "Open it up." Billy tore into it with curiosity. Shiny blue foil confetti shimmered in the air. When the scraps settled, Billy sat there with a puzzled look on his face, holding his gift from his father. "What is it, Billy?" Grandma asked. "It's football?" He held the football awkwardly in his little 8-year-old hands, reading the signature, Joe Montana, on it. "That's a man's gift, Billy," his father said, taking another hit off his beer bottle. "Throw it to me, Billy, just like Montana would." Billy didn't know who Joe Montana was, but he knew if he could throw the ball, just like his dad wanted him to, he would win the Super Bowl of his father's affections. "But Grandma said we can't throw things in the house, Billy said, looking over at his grandma. Oh, it's okay this time, Billy, she encouraged. The room was quiet now. Not even Trent or Tabitha was rustling around with their wrapping paper. Trent had his remote-controlled Jeep, and Tabitha had her rock star Barbie. Sweat began to bead up on Billy's brow as he felt every eye on him. Come on, son, throw it, Bill urged, holding out his hands. Billy knew that the ball had to spiral when it was thrown, but how to go about making it spiral, well, that was something completely different. So after examining its shape in his hands, he tossed the ball underhand to his dad. Bill let out a disappointing sigh. The fuck is wrong with you, kid? Bill gives the ball a light toss to Trent. Trent, show him how to throw the football, Bill ordered. Trent sneered at Billy and then threw the perfect spiral at Billy, landing into his sternum and pushing out some of his wind. See, Billy, his dad pointed out, that's how you throw the ball. Now try it again. Bill, Nina spoke up, you can play ball with him later. He doesn't have to. Shut the fuck up, he says to his wife. You baby the shit out of that boy. I want to see him play with the toy I got him. Billy tried to grip the enormous ball in his tiny hands. He closed his eyes, imagining the perfect spiral, landing right into his arms. He cocked his arm back and released the ball. Instead of the perfect spiral, it wobbled through the air like an out-of-control zeppelin. When Billy opened his eyes, the football careened right into the Christmas tree. It tumbled to the floor, smashing some of the balls and ornaments. Tinsel drifted to the ground like autumn leaves. Billy sat there in horror while everyone gasped. Now you did it, Billy, laughed Trent. Now you've gone and ruined Christmas. A tear leaked from the corner of his green eyes. Grandma stood up and picked up the tree and put it back on its stand. Billy looked over at his father with shame. His father returned the gaze with disappointment. Your cousin's right, Bill said to his son ominously. You've ruined Christmas. Bill, Nina interfered again. Stop it. Can't you see he feels bad enough? You know what happens when you ruin Christmas, don't you, Billy? He continued, ignoring his wife. But, Dad, Billy squeaked, I didn't mean to. What happens, Uncle Bill? Trent just had to know. Why, the Anti-Claus comes. That's what, Bill laughed. Who's the Anti-Claus? Trent egged him on further. He's Santa's evil twin. When St. Nick became Santa Claus, God had to purge all that evil from him so he would be completely good. So all that evil energy that was drained from Santa took on a life of its own. The Anti-Claus moved itself to the South Pole so that it would be as far away from his brother as possible. And every year, he comes to collect all the bad boys and girls and take them to hell in his sack. Billy shivered, with watery eyes, looking at his father. Trent laughed, and Tabitha grabbed onto Bee's leg. Grandpa rocked while Bee comforted her daughter. Dan sat there, indifferent to the entire conversation, while Grandma was vacuuming up the ornament mess with a dustbuster. Maybe if you're lucky, Billy, Bill Sr. continued, Anti-Claus won't come down Grandma's chimney and put you in his sack. How sad that would be, eh, son? Billy broke out into tears and heavy sobbing. Nina got up off the couch, scowling at her husband, and then hugged Billy. It's okay, Billy, she said. Your father lets his imagination go a little too far sometimes. "Oh, my God," Bill shouted. "You baby that kid. No wonder he's such a little whiner." "That's quite enough, Bill," she shouted back at him. "Drink another beer and leave him alone." Bill mumbled under his breath, while Nina took Billy to the bathroom. "I'm sorry, Billy," she says sympathetically, while putting a cold washcloth on his tear-stained face. "Mommy," Billy said, trying to choke down his sobbing, "is the Anti-Claus really gonna come and get me?" "No, Billy," she sighed. "Your father is just having his version of fun." It didn't bug Billy that his father had fun teasing him. It bugged him what his mother didn't say. She didn't deny the existence of the Anti-Claus, and that was more frightening than anything. "Feeling better?" she asked, wetting the washcloth again. Billy nodded, and then the bathroom door opened. It was Grandma, and she didn't look happy. She was the matriarch of the family. Nobody did anything without consulting her first. Nobody made any big decisions in their own home unless they passed it through her first. She had a tight iron grip on the family that rubbed Nina the wrong way. This put Nina outside the family circle and labeled her that bitch whenever she came up in conversation within the family. Billy, being her only son, and being coddled like he was labeled that whiny brat of that bitch. "William is right, you know," Grandma sneered. "What?" Nina snapped. "That Billy ruined Christmas? Or that the Anti-Claus is going to get him?" "Don't get smart with me, Nina. You know what I mean. You baby that kid. He can't take a shit without you." "And you baby my husband. So I guess we're alike in that way, aren't we?" "How dare you?" "Would you rather I raise Billy to be more like, let's see, Trent?" Grandma slammed the door, closed, and Nina returned to rubbing Billy's face with a washcloth. His cheeks were raw by now, as his mother was rubbing his face with the cloth while she was talking to Sharon. "Ow, Mom!" Billy yelped. "Oh, sorry, honey." She kissed his cheek and let him out of the bathroom. They walked through the living room. "I'm putting Billy to bed now," Nina announced. Billy reluctantly hugged his father goodnight and kissed his bearded cheek. "Night, Dad," he whispered. "Good night, son," Bill answered back. "Say your prayers before you go to sleep. Maybe God will protect you from the Anti-Claus." Yes, Dad." Billy started to shiver again. "God damn it, Bill," Nina spat. "That's enough already." Bill only laughed and leaned back into his cozy spot on the couch and tipped the long neck to his mouth. Tucked into his sleeping bag on the floor, next to his parents' bed in the spare room, Billy did say his prayers. He said them with strong conviction in hopes that God would send a lightning bolt to stop the Anti-Claus from getting down Grandma's chimney and taking him to hell. The prayer didn't help Billy get to sleep, but eventually sleep found him. He laid in a deep, nightmarish sleep until a real nightmare came smashing into their room at 2:15 in the morning. "How dare you, you fucking bitch!" his father yelled. "Don't you ever humiliate me in front of my family again! Do you hear me?" "You were doing a good job on that on your own," his mom screamed back. "Come here," Bill ordered, and Nina moved away from him. "You come here when I say come here." Billy's eyes popped open as his mother falls over him after getting slapped by his father. "Mom?" Billy said beneath his sleeping bag. "Now you've woken up Billy," she snapped. "Get your ass asleep," he screamed at his son, and then returned his attention to his mother. "I'm gonna show you how mouthy whores like you get treated in this family." Bill grabbed Nina by the back of the hair and pulled her down onto the bed. He put one knee on the small of her back while he started to unbuckle his belt and unsnap his pants. "No, Daddy!" Billy shot up and grabbed his dad's arm. Bill backhanded him, and he crashed into the dresser behind him. "You son of a bitch! Don't you dare touch him!" Nina yelled, muffled, with her face smashed into the mattress. "Oh, I'll touch him all I want. He's my son!" Just then, someone knocked on the door. It was Grandpa. "Everything okay in there?" he asked. "Mind your business!" Bill yelled at the door while buckling his pants back up and getting off his wife. Grandpa opened the door. "It is my business when it happens under my roof." Nina got up and wiped her face of tears and picked up Billy. She headed towards the door. "Where the fuck are you going?" Bill demanded. "Me and Billy are getting the fuck out of here and getting a hotel," she says, walking past Henry. "Nina," Grandpa said gently, "it's a blizzard out there, and it's the holidays. It's too dangerous to drive out there, and I reckon you won't be able to find a hotel room." "I'll take my chances." "Get your ass back here," Bill yells after her. "That's my son, too." Bill tries to walk past his father, but Henry stops him. "Get out of my way." "Go to bed, William," Grandpa said sternly. "Deal with it in the morning." Just as Nina and Billy had put on their coats, gloves, hats, and boots, there was a loud bang on the roof, followed by a long, grating screech. Billy jumped in his mom's arms. "Mom, it's the Anti-Claus!" Everyone shuffled out into the living room. "What the hell was that?" Uncle Dan said, looking up at the ceiling. "It's the Anti-Claus!" Billy screamed. "Oh my God, it's the Anti-Claus, and he's coming to take me to hell for ruining Christmas!" His sobbing began again, and he struggled in his mother's arms. "There, there," Grandpa tried to comfort him. "The wind and the snow probably blew one hell of a branch off one of my elm trees is all." Mom, can we please go?" he begged her. Another crash hit the roof, and some of the plaster on the ceiling cracked and sprinkled down dust on everyone, who screamed themselves when the bang hit. "Hey, Chuck, welcome." "Jesus," B exclaimed. "That's a hell of a snowstorm out there." Nina opened the front door to leave with Billy in tow. Henry grabbed her arm. "Please stay," he said, looking into her eyes. "The plows won't be out until morning, and you know how the drifts get out here in the country. For Billy's sake, at least." Nina submitted, and Billy began to kick in his mother's arms again. "No, Mommy, no," he begged. "Billy, shh." She set him down and faced him. "You need to stop this now. It's not safe to travel. You heard Grandpa." But the anti..." "Stop it with the Anti-Claus thing already." She shook Billy. "Nothing is going to get you. Your dad is just being an asshole." Billy sucked in his sobbing gasps and sounded like someone with chronic asthma. Reluctantly, he removed his snow gear and walked slowly into the living room, where everyone else sat there in front of the roaring fireplace. "Oh, I hope you're insured," Uncle Dan, who was still staring at the ceiling, said to Henry to break the silence. "Don't worry," interrupted Grandma. "We're insured. I think we should all go back to bed." Nina looked across the room at Bill, who was glaring at her. "I think Billy and I will sleep out here by the fireplace." "Oh, don't be ridiculous," Sharon began and was interrupted by her husband. "That'll be just fine, Nina." He looked over at his youngest daughter, Carrie. "Go get them some blankets and pillows, Carrie, please." Carrie sighed and then came back from the linen closet with some comforters. There was another crash on the roof, and that's when the power flashed off and on and then off again. Everyone had jumped. "Settle down, everyone," Grandpa said, standing up. "Power lines must have got snapped with a branch." He started to put his insulated coveralls on. "I'll get the generator started up." Billy watched his grandpa slip on his boots and gloves and disappear into the winter night. This was the last time Billy ever saw his grandfather. Grandma ordered Dan to bring in some wood from the porch and get the fire going, and then she put coffee on. When the fire was tended to and roaring at a nice warm temperature, everyone relaxed and awaited Henry to get the generator started. And that's when a cold gust of wind shot down the chimney and blew out the fire, leaving frost on the firewood. "Hey, Jason, welcome." "What the hell?" Grandma pondered. She touched the burnt wood, and it was ice cold. "Don't burn yourself, Mom," Carrie said. "Shut up. It's not even hot. There's frost all over it." Grandma grabbed matches off the hearth and put some paper under the frosted wood. She then peeled off some bark off the birch logs that were stacked beside the fireplace Dan had brought in. She snapped a match beside the matchbox and put it to the paper. Just as it was about to catch fire, another gust came along and frosted the kindling, logs, and the match, her fingers instantly numb from the breath of cold air. "Jesus H!" She shook her fingers to get some circulation into them. "Auntie Carrie told you that you'd burn your fingers," Trent laughed. "Shut your pie hole. I did not burn my fingers." Just then, she heard what she believed to be cackling. "What the hell?" She looked perplexed. "There's laughing coming from the chimney." "Grandma lost her mind," Trent teased. "Would you shut the hell up?" She glared at him. Then there was a trickling sound, and when she turned around, there was a black, sooty liquid dripping onto the bundle she was trying to light. She sniffed it. It was a pungent odor with a hint of sulfur in it. "Mom?" Bee asked. "What is it?" "Just melting snow, I think." She reached into the fireplace to move the wet kindling when something slimy and cold touched the back of her hand. She pulled her hand back, and it was covered with frost. "Grandma burnt her hand!" shouted Trent. "Shut your Something wet and thick, like black seaweed, shot out from the chimney and had entangled Grandma and took her by surprise. It pulled her into the brick of the fireplace and smashed her glasses and split her forehead open. "Mom!" Carrie screamed. "It's the Anti-Claus!" screamed Billy. "Oh my God, it's him! He's here!" Grandmother laid there screaming as the thick black goo got thicker around her body, as if she were being cocooned. She writhed in pain. "Do something!" Bee screamed at Bill and Dan. They both jumped up and grabbed a hold of Sharon's sweater, where the stuff had not covered her. "Don't you let me go!" Grandma screamed. "Don't you dare let me go!" Its pull was stronger than both the men. It dragged them across the carpet with her towards the fireplace. With one forceful yank, the thing pulled Bill, Dan, and Grandma into the brick. It knocked Dan's grip, and he fell to the side, trying to get the breath back into his lungs. Bill's grip loosened, but he had hold of her free hand now. He planted both his feet onto the brick surface of the fireplace while his mother was slowly being yanked up into the chimney. The thick black substance crawled its way down Sharon's arm, towards her wrist, and then began wrapping itself within her fingers. With shock, Bill let go, and his mother cursed him as she was pulled into the chimney. The sound of her bones crushing and her garbled screams echoed down into the living room. And then blood gushed down onto the logs, spattering Bill in his face as he cried out. She gone, Jason, that's right. Jesus fucking Christ, Bill gasped. What the fuck was that? Dad? Billy had the answer. Shh, Nina said. She didn't like the look in her husband's eyes. It's the Anti-Claus, Uncle Bill, Trent said, slack-jawed. Bill looked at Trent and then at Dan. Help me block this thing. They stretched the metal screen across the front of the fireplace. Then, looking around, he grabbed the coffee table and put it in front of the screen. What are we going to do? Carrie asked her brother. I don't fucking know, he spat, looking around desperately. With the power out and the fireplace unusable, it was getting cold inside the house. Minnesota was well known for her severe winters, but this Christmas Eve, the temperatures dropped well below zero, and the wind chills only made it worse. Get out the blankets, he ordered Carrie. I'll go get Dad's shotgun. I'm not going anywhere with that thing. Carrie looked up at the ceiling. Up there. Bill slapped her face. Pull yourself together, goddammit. As long as we're armed and together, we'll be okay. It's in the chimney. We'll be fine. When the blankets were passed out and the shotgun loaded, there was a grinding noise coming from above in the chimney. Dust began to fall from cracks developing in the brick. The crack was making its way down towards the opening. As it reached the bottom, where the barricade held, Bill cocked his .410 and took aim at the screen. Nothing happened, only the sound of dripping water. Bill? Bea asked as he shushed her, keeping a stare at the fireplace. Bill, said his mother's voice from inside the fireplace. Oh my God, it's Mom, shrieked Carrie. Mother? Bill asked, not putting his shotgun down. Billy boy, his mother's voice cooed, come and get your mom out of this fireplace. Ma, is that you? Well, of course it is, shit for brains. Your father's in here too. Get us out of here. Bill looked over at Dan. You pull the table away. Fuck that, Bill, Dan protested. I ain't going near that thing. You fucking pussy. Bill looks over at his son, who was curled into a catatonic ball next to his mother. Billy! Billy! Are you fucking serious? Nina spat. Look at him. This is all because of you. Me? Me? He's the one that fucking ruined Christmas. He's the one that called this thing here. Do you actually think there really is an Anti-Claus? Well, what do you think that thing is? Nina stared at the fireplace, trying to piece together the reality of what she's witnessed. I don't know. She swallowed a lump that was in her throat. Would you two quit bickering and get me and your father out of here? Yelled Sharon's voice. Carrie walked slowly up to the fireplace. It was so cold in the house now, everyone could see their breaths. She slid the coffee table backwards and tried to peer into the blackness of the fireplace. Mom? She called. Dad? Carrie, Bill ordered, get the hell out of the way. Before Carrie could move, more black goo gushed from the holes in the screen and engulfed Carrie's body. She let out a scream. Jesus! Dan screamed and tried to grab her. The thick tar-like substance pulled her slowly towards the metal screen, dragging Dan behind her. "Help me, Bill!" Dan cried. "Snap out of it, you bastard, and help me!" Bill only stood there slack-jawed as his youngest sister was dragged into the screen. She screeched as the dark liquid stuff began cutting into her skin and crushing her flesh into the rusted metal screen. At that moment, Sharon's head popped out of the fireplace from the inky blackness. "Yes, Bill," she said. "Help your brother-in-law, you lazy mama's boy." Bill cried out and fell backwards, hitting his tailbone and firing the shotgun. Birdshot hissed through the air and struck Carrie in the left shoulder. She cried out and tried to look at the damage, but slowly the black tendrils enveloped her entire body like a chrysalis, and her screams were muffled. Soon her body went limp, and she was pulled through the grating. Dan scrambled backwards to his wife and Tabitha, who were standing and looking around frantically as if they had no idea where to run. Nina had picked up Billy and was walking slowly towards the back room away from the fireplace. Bill had stood himself up, holding the shotgun with a mad look in his eye. "The boy," he muttered under his breath. "It's the boy." Bea looked curiously at her brother. "What, Bill?" "It wants the boy." She grabbed Trent by his forearm and pulled him to her. "Bill, you're talking crazy." "Not your half-wit son, Bea." He turned his gaze to Nina and Billy. "Billy. It wants Billy because he ruined Christmas." Nina glared at Bill and backed up a few steps towards the hallway. "Don't you touch a hair on his head, you bastard." "Nina," he growled. "Nina, honey, hand me the boy. Give me the boy, and all of this will be over." She put Billy down and stood in front of him, knowing there was going to be a fight, perhaps their last one. "Billy boy," he changed his tone to a soothing one. "Come here to Daddy, son. It's gonna be okay." "No, Daddy," Billy cried. "I will kill you if you so much take one more step towards us," Nina spat. "Come on, baby. We can make another baby. Just give me Billy and we can start fresh by the new year. Come on, what do you say?" Nina looked around for a weapon, but there was nothing around to use as a bludgeon or stabbing tool. Bill took the opportunity and ran into her, catching her by surprise. "You dumb bitch!" as he headbutts her nose, and she sees stars. Another motion, and he has Billy by his scrawny little arms and hauls him into the air. "No, Daddy!" Billy cried and kicked. "No, Daddy, please!" "It's okay, Big Billy," he cooed to his son. "You're gonna make everything okay." It was after this reassurance that the brick of the chimney exploded and rained down Chicago red brick dust and chunks into the Gilbertson family. "What the fuck?" Before Bill could finish his thought, there before him stood a large mound of black, sticky flesh, pulsating and bubbling, stretching out its appendages like pseudopods, trying to taste the air. At the end of each false arm were his mother, his father, and his sister Carrie. Only their heads and their eyes were open, but with a milky veil over them. Bill stared at the heads wavering in the air in front of him. He swung Billy around to face them. "I've got him," Bill pleaded with the heads. "This is him, and he's the one that ruined Christmas." Billy clung to his dad like a tree frog on a limb. "No, Daddy, please. Oh, God, not the Anti-Claus." "Take responsibility, Billy boy, for your actions." Billy wouldn't loosen his grip on his father, so Bill slammed his son on the ground until his little fist loosened on his skin. Dan stood up and grabbed Bill by his shirt. "Get off your son, you fucking psycho!" Bill pivoted and used Dan's inertia to toss him into the shambling mass of black flesh. Black seaweed-like tendrils immediately coiled around Dan. He attempted to scream, but the obsidian glob invaded his mouth and then filled his insides with itself. Dan's arms tried grasping for Bill, who was only standing there staring. Before Dan disappeared into the mass, Bee jumped up and started clawing Bill's face. "What have you done, you son of a bitch?" she screamed. Bill hit her with the butt of the shotgun, and she immediately went unconscious. Trent ran at Bill next, and that's when it spoke for the first time. It used Henry's head, but spoke with a gurgling, dark voice. It lashed out a tendril around Trent. "Trent Allen Davidson," it gurgled. "Class bully of East Richfield Junior High School." Trent's eyes opened wide, and didn't realize the warm sensation below his waist was his bladder and bowels releasing their contents. You know me?" he stuttered. "Of course I know you, boy. I know everyone in this family quite well." "Trent isn't the one that—" Bill started to say, and there was silence with a quick tentacle around his mouth like a gag. "Silence, Bill Henry Gilbertson," it scolded, regarding him with one dead eye. "You and I have such things to discuss. But first, I must attend to your other family members." A thick tentacle shot out and attached a sucker to the center of Trent's head. Trent started to scream and struggle in its grip when all of a sudden his eyes turned pitch black and his face went slack, as if he were being filled with something. That finished. An opaque layer of black skin dripped from the sucker and encompassed Trent's body. Then it laid him carefully on the ground next to his unconscious mother. Tabitha started to crawl away, sobbing so uncontrollably that she couldn't breathe. It taunted and grabbed Tabitha by the leg. "Where do you think you're going, little one? Plan on letting your brother work in the sulfur mines alone, eh?" Another thinner tentacle flew out and stuck to her smooth forehead. She kicked and screamed like her brother did before her. Eventually, her body went limp, and she only stared blankly into some unknown spot on the ceiling. She twitched and jerked as drool flew in strings all about the living room. "I may be mistaken," it gurgled. "Tabby seems to be resistant to my essence. She's been nicer than I had hoped." It dropped her to the ground with a loud thwunk, and she laid there unconscious. Billy sat whimpering next to his unconscious mother, trying to wake her. Mom, 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 Mom!" He shook her. "Little Billy Gilbertson," it said, with all three heads of his aunt, his grandmother, grandfather, and now the new head of Uncle Dan, all exclaiming his name in a dead chorus. "Come hither, boyo. Let me take a look at you." Blackness, like a living shadow, crept across the floor towards him. "Mama!" he screamed into her unconscious ear. "Mama, please wake up!" He got onto his bare feet and ran towards the bathroom down the hall. The blackness followed as quick as he ran, teasing him by touching the back of his heels. It turned his feet blue and his toes went numb. He tripped into the bathroom and slammed the door shut and leaned against the door. He reached behind himself and latched the lock on the knob. The door banged behind his back, and he could feel it starting to splinter. "Silly boy," it whispered. "I love games. Is this hide and seek, Billy? I think I found you. Now you need to show yourself. Ollie, Ollie, I'll come free."
"Leave me alone," Billy pleaded. "Leave me and my mom and dad alone. I didn't mean to knock the Christmas tree down. Please."
The blackness seeped in through the cracks around the door and enveloped little Billy. He struggled and then was pulled through the splintering door. He kicked and screamed all the way down the hall until they reached the living room. It was in the shape of his grandfather, except when you got to his feet, they just ended in an inky mess of seaweed-like tentacles. "Is that what you think?" it asked him in a gurgling imitation of his granddad's voice. "That all of this justice, may we call it, is all because of your sweet, delicious little hands fumbling a football into the Gilbertson sacred tree?"
But Dad said, he said that,"
Billy stuttered. "Your father, I'm afraid, is a fool, as are most of your family members here and within. They are cruel and self-absorbed, perfect for me and what I need, but bad for you." Bill was still being held by a tentacle. At the mention of his name and family, he tried to yell an insult. "No need to yell, William Sr. I can read those naughty little thoughts in your small little brain."
Are you the
Billy tried to ask. "The Anti-Claus, as your father so delicately put?"
Yes."
Billy had been screaming so much his chest was wheezing. "Let me ask you this, spawn of Adam. Do you believe in Santa Claus?" Billy pondered this question for a moment, despite the situation around him. He had believed in the fat, jolly St. Nick since he could remember in his short little life, but other than the malls, he had never really seen any evidence of him. There was a battle going on between what he wanted to believe and what he needed to believe. "It's a simple question, Billiam."
Yes,"
he answered quietly. "What was that?"
"Yes, I believe in Santa Claus," he shouted. "Because if there's something as evil and vile as you that's alive, then there has to be a Santa Claus."
"Very good, Billy boy. Very good indeed." Another shadowy tentacle with a sucker similar to the one that accosted his cousins lit upon his sweaty brow. "Now, I'm afraid that your father and I have some business to attend to, so I will ask you to check out for a bit. Good evening, Master Bill." Something within that thick tendril flooded into his mind, and he just remembers falling into a cold blackness, and then no more. "This is Tabitha Bourne," said Dr. Hiller in front of Quiet Room J10. Within the room sat a little girl of about 11. She had blonde hair with beautiful curls that ended in ringlets at her shoulders. She was rocking back and forth and drooling at the edge of her mouth. "She was the first one we pulled from the house," he continued.
Neither of her parents were found in the house, nor can they be reached. We assume that whatever the incident, their being gone may be a blessing in disguise. He moved with his group of students to the next wing, which was the adult ward of St. Preston Regional Mental Health Center. Come along, I don't need any stragglers in this place. I have enough patients here who try to pretend they're my students the way it is. The group laughed to themselves. In this room is Nina Gilbertson. She is the mother of the patient we saw earlier, William Stephen Gilbertson, Jr. As you can see, she's in the same catatonic state as her niece Tabitha. All three of them were found frostbitten and near death. Had the sheriff's deputy not been driving through that area checking on people, they probably would not have made it. Doctor? Asked one of the med students. How many did you say there were originally at the scene of the crime? I didn't, he said, disgusted. But if you must know, it's unknown. According to the police report, there were signs of there being 7 to 8 people at the scene. They went by what the stories these poor patients gave them and by the photographs found on the scene. What will become of the son? Asked another student. Well, when the poor boy recovers, social services will step in and he'll be evaluated to see if he'll make it in a foster home or if he'll need to be institutionalized. 2 floors down from their location, in a hospital bed far too large for the person who currently is lying there, a nurse sits outside the door. Next to her, a worker from social services goes over a case file. How long has he been awake? The worker asked. She was dressed business casual, bushy red hair, and a modest amount of makeup. He just woke up this morning, the nurse reported. Has he said anything? He's been asking to see his mother. And what did you tell him? I said she's in special care and wasn't allowed visitors just yet. Smart girl, the worker said condescendingly and winked. He's been under a lot of trauma. I think seeing his mother right now would only worsen his condition. Shall we go in? The nurse asked, pushing the door open. No, the worker said, stepping back. I think it best I give him time to get his bearings. As the nurse closed the door she was opening, the worker handed the nurse a shopping bag. What's this? Asked the nurse. Christmas present, the worker smiled. The smile was not a warm one. It was quite cold and predatory. Okay, the nurse said hesitantly as she took the shopping bag from her. Is it from you? No. It's from his mother. The worker walked slowly down the hall, and the nurse went into Billy's room. Hiya, Billy, the nurse said. How are you doing this afternoon? I miss my mom, he said for the 1000th time. When can I see her? That's up to the doctor. In the meantime, she pulled out a gift-wrapped present about the size of an old hat box. Look what someone brought for you. From Mom? Billy reached for it anxiously. He tore into the wrappings and discarded them on his white, sterile sheets. He tried pulling at the tape, but it was strong packaging tape. It was the artist said he wanted. He could just feel it. The nurse used a pen from her scrubs pocket and split the tape. Billy pulled back the cardboard flaps, and the smile on his face melted. His eyes glazed over, and he dropped the box on his lap. Billy, what is it? The nurse asked, concerned. Billy pushed the box away from himself, and out of the open end rolled the head of his father in an eternal scream. The nurse jumped away from it and tried to scream herself, but nothing came out. Scratched into the skin of Bill's forehead were the words,
to Billy from AC. Have a Merry Christmas. And that, my friends, is Anti-Claus is coming to town. So yeah, that just took up just about the whole hour. So anyhow, I hope you guys enjoyed that one. Maybe you guys are hearing this for the second time. I don't know. I missed something. It's the toughest part of reading these stories to you guys is when I've got too many people in the story, it's hard to keep up with whose voice is whose. So when they're little kids, it's easier, but yeah, it's a little harder when it's a bunch of them. So I'm glad you liked it, Shannon. I'm glad you liked it. Hopefully Bobby's writing off Christmas now. We'll see. Well, thank you, Beth. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah. I didn't see Kevin chime in. Oh, there he is. Hola. Christmas story now. Christmas song soon. Okay, yeah, there he is. All right. So good. I'm hoping that stops him from sleeping tonight because I owe him for voting yes last night. It's okay. I don't need any sleep. So if you're tuning in tomorrow, I'm hoping you don't get any sleep either. So anyhow, I'm gonna cut it pretty soon, pretty quick here. Because tomorrow he's hiding under the covers. Tomorrow is our first annual Halloween special, and I will be reading that short story that you guys. Yes, Jessica, thank you for showing up. It was good to see you. This story was created by you guys because you guys basically voted on the prompts, and I put together a story based on those prompts. And the name of the story is called Home is Where the Heart Is. And I finished it up the other night. I'm probably going to proofread it tonight. Yeah, and just double check it before I release it on you guys. So that's tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. I'll send the invites out either tonight or tomorrow. I might send them out tomorrow because it's more time and some promo stuff. Also, it's the most wonderful time of the year. Ding dong. You keep telling yourself that, Bobby. Anyhow, what was I going to say? Tomorrow is also the release. Actually, it's going to be 9, 10, 11. In 3 hours, my new book, Thin Spots, goes live on Amazon. And you guys can order the Kindle version or you can order the paperback. The Kindle version is available right now for pre-order, and the paperback goes live at midnight tonight. So we'll be talking a little bit about that tomorrow night. So anyhow, thank you guys for tuning in. You get to see new faces on these podcasts lately, like people popping in. Not that they're new to me, but I mean they're new on here, and that's pretty awesome. Also see a lot of new likes and a lot of new shares out there in Facebook land, and that's helped me become Facebook's rising creator, which was a cool honor to have. You just have to retain that, so I got to keep putting content on here to keep this thing going. So very much appreciate you guys, more than you'll ever know. There's been a lot of times when I wanted to quit doing this, but I keep going because of your guys' encouragement and seeing new people come on here. Bobby, I'm glad you still love Christmas. I'll have to find an Anti-Claus costume to wear and show up on your doorstep. Anyhow, so yeah, a big thank you to all of you who come out here, the regular drones that always come to the b.hive for any weird thing I've got to say or do or play on here. You guys are always here, and I very much appreciate you guys a lot. So thanks again. Tune in tomorrow night and join me. And we'll be reading Home is Where the Heart Is. We'll be celebrating Halloween and the release of Thin Spots by Bradley Bodeker. So, and those of you that won a autographed copy of the book, there were some issues or something with the order, but I got it fixed. And your book should be here sometime in between tomorrow and Sunday. So, yeah. As soon as I get those, I'll get those signed for you and either get them sent off to you or I'll be bringing them to you. One or the other. One or t'other. So, all right. All right, you guys have a great night. Chuck, thank you for bringing the zombies, the bees, and the farting badgers. It wouldn't be the b.hive without you guys. So, all right, see you guys tomorrow night. Mwah. Peace, love you. And there's no Bobby to clap. Ha. I win. Winning. Tiger blood. And stuff.